All right. So welcome everyone. Once again, this is the fourth chapter, the fourth installment of our series of live stream conversations. My name is Marco De Mutis. I'm the co-curator together with Matteo. Hi, Matteo.
Ciao.
Of the exhibition, How to Win a Photography. And we have decided to do this series of what we call the extended play live stream episodes, in which we meet for a chat at a ridiculous time in the evening. So, when you're looking at the recording of this, please be forgiven and consider that it's 10 p.m. and we are both in terrible conditions after a long day, dealing with different kind of nightmares.
Challenges.
So today we're talking about camera play, which is the exhibition chapters that deal with the notion of the apparatus. Let's go to the camera play introduction here. Okay, so well, actually, we can start. There is this a very nice quote of Flusser here in the online publication, which is, by the way, How to Win at Photography. So you can find all the information about the show, installation shots, description, and these videos here as well as part of the online publication. So the camera is not a tool, but a plaything. The photographer is not a worker, but a player, not homo faber, but homo ludens. Yet photographers do not play with their plaything, but against it. They creep into the camera in order to bring to light the tricks concealed within. So I think this was, for us, maybe one of the starting points in thinking about this notion of play and game connected to photography.
Can we also say that that book, Towards the Philosophy of Photography, is the best book ever written about photography? I mean, forget Susan Sontag, forget Roland Barthes. I mean, Willem Flusser just kicks ass, like, dramatically. And with that,
absolutely. I think it's one of those books that you go through and it kind of like opens up so much. If you think about I think it's from 83 or 87.
83. It's part of his trilogy. Yeah. It's the first one.
So 83, it kind of was a very visionary writing, especially considering all of the things that we discuss in terms of digital and network images and the relationship that we have with algorithms and power structures within the photographer and the viewer and the image systems that are developed now. I don't know. I think that there was something that reading that now and looking at something that was written in 1983 was really crazy for me. How much pioneering it is. But yeah, I think in general, this was maybe we can talk about like this romantic notion of the relationship between the photographer and the camera as kind of the master and the slave, or this idea that there is this tool that is just a tool at our service, and then which replicates the human retina, the human vision, and how Flusser kind of spins this around and puts it upside down and starts questioning the fact that, what if we're actually the ones who are just at the service of the camera? We are just pressing the buttons because we are told to. So we master this game, and by mastering, we are kind of becoming mastered by the game itself. And I think he calls it like this Kafkian game, right? That you don't really exactly know why that is and what happens. So in a way, like this also, How to Win at Photography, I think it's a nice connection to these ideas. And I remember, like in game studies, it's also very interesting, this idea of the pleasure of mastery and the pleasure of being mastered, right? I think in the traditional game studies approach, there is this idea of taking pleasure in mastering the game. And I don't know, maybe Matteo, you have other examples. To me that I remember there was this paper, but by Seth Giddings and Helen Kennedy called Little Jesuses and Fuck Off Robots, where he talked about this idea of the pleasure of being mastered by the game, which I thought was very somehow parallel to the ideas that we just talked about in photography.
I think what's really cool about Flusser and then game studies is the idea that basically photographers are a bunch of losers. I mean, they lose the game of photography because of the apparatus, right? And so he establishes this tension between the camera and as an apparatus, as a device, but also as an industry, right? And with its own protocols, rules, technical elements. And then there are the so-called artists, but for him, the only artist is basically the one who actually plays against, right? The counterplay kind of thing, which is also a huge theme in game studies, Alexander Galloway's, masterful essays on gaming, when he talks about, which came out in 2006, if I'm correct, talks about the idea that those who are really creating meaning are actually playing against the machine, the video game, the camera, et cetera, because if you remember, Flusser basically says that 99% of photographs are useless, are boring. Panafil and Brico made an entire career out of this very clever observation. So, as he said, as he writes right there, you play against it. So maybe like the subtitle of this section should be playing with or against the apparatus. Maybe we can fix that. I don't know, because our exhibition as well sort of like presents is both this like kind of playful attitude, but also kind of like the more subversive nature of photography against the machine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also what I was saying about contemporary system of digital network photography, how that kind of game becomes very real in the sense of seeing machines, as Trevor Paglen's called them, or Harun Farok's idea of operative images. This idea that all of these kind of images that are created, these 99% images without any meaning that are created, go into and feed algorithms or data sets who are then used for facial surveillance and all these other very, very dark games, or whatever you want to call them.
Because for many years, also the overwhelming, production of images and consumption is completely made by machines. So in a sense, once again, Flusser was so prophetic 40 years ago, basically saying that it's all, like machinic play, and humans are becoming more and more kind of like redundant, both at the point of production and the point of consumption. So Trevor Paglen totally, I think, expresses this idea very cogently.
Right, maybe this is a nice moment to talk about trophy cameras, one of the work in the show by Max Pinkers and Porter. Because I felt that trophy camera somehow was such a matching artwork for the exhibition. This could have been also part of gameplay in a way, right? Because it really is about the winning photos. So trophy camera is an installation. It's an interactive installation that was created by the artists using all the pictures from the WordPress Award photos, WordPress Photo Awards from 1955 until now. I'm totally losing it tonight. From 1955 until now, so the whole database of the WordPress Photo Awards. In order to train an AI or to develop like a software that kind of looked at all of these images and conceptually, let's say, learned how to define a WordPress Photo Award winning image. So from this software, software. So they created a camera that the audience, the viewer, are encouraged to play with, and you can, there's a red button in the handle where it takes pictures, and when it takes the pictures, so you don't have a display, a traditional display, but actually small displays for the text that informs you of what the camera sees. So it sees a bunch of different things, and then in the end, it gives you a percentage of award winnability, let's say. So in this relation, this is a bit small, but there's also all of the pictures and all of the data analyzed by the software. And the software also uploads the images that get more than 90% winning factor to a dedicated website, which is trophy.camera, which I never managed to get at the museum. I think the 80 was the highest that I got. So I've been you know, playing and fighting against this apparatus and playing this game. But for now, I haven't managed to win.
So in a sense, I would say that another work that we considered but didn't include for various reasons, mostly like space, it's a Philip Smith restricted camera from 2015, which it's sort of like a counterplay version of this very concept, in the sense that this is a camera that prevents photographers to take a picture in a spot, in a place that is very popular. So if you take a photograph in front of the Tour Eiffel, for example, so the camera has a GPS kind of embedded, and so it can see the location. And if you're trying to take a picture of places that have been taken like billions of times, it just stops you. So the idea is that popularity here is your enemy, and you win the game by not playing the game by the rules. So it's kind of interesting. Once again, starting to like sabotage, the image making. I find it really funny. A disobedient tool.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the camera is teaching you how to photograph, right? A different kind of rule set.
Yeah, it's interesting how much like we are trained also to see in a certain way. So also all of these ideas of tourist photography is always kind of reenacting the same images of the same landmarks and so on. So I think by this very, very simple trick, it creates such a wonderful way to generate different pictures. And also it's a reminder of this fact that there's so many images which exist already, right? Like I think it was Dibbets who said that the photographer of the 21st century has to think about images, not create more images to add to the flood of images that are existing. So camera restrictor is really kind of also just playing with that and saying like, okay, we have enough images of the Eiffel Tower or the Colosseum and all of that things.
So it reminds me of instant repeat. If you think about it, there should be like a mod for the camera that doesn't allow you to take photographs that like subject positions poses that have been taken too many times, like as to sabotage the instant repeat.
Actually, funny that you mentioned there is a project that I have on my phone. I don't know if it still works. It's called CC Camera. Wait. Let me see if I find it in my links, because basically the CC Camera was a project from Marco Land. It doesn't exist anymore. So I had it in my notes. So I will just tell you from memory. It was an app that allowed you to take a picture, but before showing you the image, you would actually go online, look for a similar image, and then show you that image instead. So you actually didn't take any picture, but it would show you. And it was funny because many times, like, if you did it on the beach, or with some, like, there were so many recurring themes where the photo was really close. It was a very depressing app too, because every time I was like, oh yeah, I guess I'm not that special.
You're not so special, snowflake. Right.
But yeah, it looks like it has disappeared.
It was bought by Instagram and then instantly killed.
So I have it. I have it here.
It exists. Very cool.
It exists. Maybe I can do a live demo. So is on my doppelganger.
It's your clone. You can use it. That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah. And I think, trophy camera is interesting, especially because it talks about this idea of the award,
Right.
the WordPress photo. And
Where's
also,
my badge?
the
Right.
WordPress photo is also this award of photojournalism. So
Yeah.
there's something that is also deeply concerning to me about this photojournalism award, with this jury that is also considering a lot of aesthetic judgment. So in a way, like this kind of game
It's
of
got a canon, right?
it's become also kind of problematic, because you need to create a bit of shock value. Right? So you have this history of really exploitative images, which becomes kind of rewarded by this award. So in a sense, the award itself is kind of creating a problem in the politics of representation. So I think it's a great work, because it's very playful, but at the same time it kind of reveals so many deeply problematic things about photography at large.
Well, we go back to my grandmother, right? 1936. The aesthetics of suffering, the idea of depression, the depression. In that case, it's even worse because the subject was photographed without, by Dorothy Lange, without giving any consent, and she died in poverty pretty much. I mean, so it's also like the exploitation in this case is even more blatant. So it's kind of like part of the embedded rules, if you think about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's, as you mentioned, I mean, you can go even further, right? Like a documentary photographer of the 19th century, even kind of having this I think
how the other half lives, remember, about poverty and slums, and yeah, totally.
But should we show another couple of examples from the
Go
itself, before we do you have any preference? I mean,
I love them all.
We opened up a lot in this chapter, I felt, because there's so many sorry, where is it? Yeah, there's so many works also from conceptual photography, which reflect on this idea of the camera, and trying alternative ways of seeing. So I think the work of John Hilliard was also very interesting. Like this idea of the camera looking at itself, and all of these different apertures, which are all equally valid in the camera eyes. Right? So it's again questioning the camera not only as a way to replicate the way that we see, but kind of expanding and try to look at its own vision. So this game against the camera, for the camera, or with the camera, I think it's very interesting. It could go on like forever. I think it was very difficult to maybe select the works in this chapter, because I think there's so many artists who have challenged the normative way in which the camera is used. And we can talk a little bit about Steven Pippen. For Steven Pippen is
totally
been experimenting with what it means to create a camera, right? Like, what does it mean to have a camera? So it turns, like, in this case, the toilet of a train into a pinhole camera. He has turned the like washing machines into cameras. He has had a self-destructing camera that records itself. And speaking of self-destructing, maybe also, just the
vibration addition. No.
Sorry.
No, I thought we were going to talk about vibration addition, the idea of, like, sabotaging the very act of taking a photograph.
Yeah, yeah. So vibration addition is an installation, an interactive installation by Lewis Braukman, in which the camera starts to shake. So the addition is this motor here is the vibration addition that makes the camera shakes every time that somebody gets close to it. And by doing that, it basically stops the camera from being able to take a non-shaky image. So it's a kind of a very subtle, violent intervention that I really enjoy, And then also, speaking of violence, Dorothea Lisa Bauman's video in which she destroys the camera with a hammer. Here it is. That's maybe like the kind of welcoming video in this chapter that sets the tone of what play. Wow. So,
I heard visitors were horrified and they brought in the director. You can show this in a museum of photography. Shame on you.
Well, actually, it's interesting that I think during the installation of the show, many of the people from the installation team are photographers, and there was always like,
It reminds me of the videos of people who buy, like, I don't know, the PlayStation 5 or the iPhone 13, and they just like destroy it and put it in a blender or something.
Will it blend?
Yeah. There's an entire genre on, like, YouTube about destroying your objects of obsession.
Okay, and I think so a part of the show really opens up in this more kind of conceptual idea of playing with apparatus, playing with the camera, as Flusser started to suggest already in '83. And then I think there's the other side of things where, kind of games became more like cameras, if that's something that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So on one side we have, for example, well, maybe like this idea of modding a game to turn it into a camera. I think it's also super interesting. We have Selfie Doom, which is a mod by Andrew Stein, in which he turns the BFG, right, the big fucking gun of Doom. So one of the weapons in Doom is now turned into a selfie stick, which is a functional selfie stick in the sense you can also take selfies, which is always one of the fun attraction of the show, especially for the younger crowd.
Totally.
And at the same time,
and this actually, you know what, this idea of the first-person shooter, right, which is a genre that emerges basically in the early 90s, right? And it's a game where you are basically a camera, but you're also a gun. There's like this sort of like identification between the eye and the offensive weapon, which is also like, a theme in Susan Sontag's, 1977 book on photography, like the camera as violence, etc. But this whole genre of the first-person shooter always reminds me of where is it? The chronophotography of Marais, right? And the idea that there's this entire genre of the photo gun. Here's the link or something. And I don't know if you know, I mean, you of course you know, but there's what I really find fascinating is that entire kind of like genre of the Fusil Photographique, right, that he creates in 1882 in Naples, by the way, which is really about taking photographs with a machine that looks like a gun. It's actually a modded gun, right, itself. And you can take photographs, 12, it's basically a precursor of cinema, right? It's invented just a few years before the invention of the movie theaters by the camera cinema by the Lumiere brothers, like and it's really interesting because there's an entire genre of photo guns that were developed throughout the year. So here's another one, the Photo Sniper by Zenit. This was a Russian photo gun, very popular. And here's I don't know if you can find it. It's kind of hard to find, but it's in the chat. I don't have the link. Yeah, exactly. Which is looks exactly like a machine gun. I mean, it's really intimidating. It's more recent than the other one. And there's this Japanese one, also really fascinating. Konica was producing a lot of photo guns to train, for example, pilots flying, and instead of shooting and then wasting ammo and of course destroying things, they would use this kind of like video game like in first person targeting objects. Yeah, the Doryu 216 is another very interesting machine that to me looks like again this kind of like this gamified kind of photography that is also, as you wrote as well, kind of like a safari, right? When you capture something and you destroy by capturing it with a no, it's called Doryu.
Great.
I like this guy too, though. Yeah, here it is. This is phenomenal. Like I was trying to find one on eBay or something. I couldn't. It's just phenomenal. Just like a gun with an embedded camera. I love it.
Well, I think there's something about the photographic entertainment military complex that is
right.
Very
totally.
We had also at the museum for the Museum Winter Tour during our situations program. We did a cluster of situations called the Strike, and we all were kind of like mapping or trying to map all of this Miro board is online, and that we were also kind of looking at like so many of these the pictorial graph, the all different kind of revolver cameras, movie bridge, yeah, attention Marie, as you said, and also there was, I think, a camera that was positioned in the aircraft that would take pictures at the same time as the bullet, so
right,
to check where the bullet went, and
right,
then the other one where took pictures instead of the bullet for training, as you said. And I thought, like,
I see the Zapper gun too. Well, in that case, you must quote the Ken Shiley project, right? That he did with the Zapper gun. You remember?
Yeah, the YouTube. What was it called? That's a great project.
It was cool. I can't remember. It's one of his earliest projects. There it is, Zappers 2011. Right? Yeah, it's like underneath the trauma tube. Yeah.
That's not the one that I was thinking of.
Well, are you thinking about the other one on YouTube where you have the that's also very, very clever. It's 2015 or 2016. I can't remember. Yeah, there it is. No, that's the shadow.
Is it first person? So many.
Yeah. Also, aspect is pretty cool. It's about the idea of the shadow of the gun, the guy walking, and there's it's from Arma 3, I can't remember, and there's Carl Jung reading in the background about the symbols.
People observe their own unconscious tendencies in other people. This is called a projection. Political agitation in all countries is full of.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We have to do a retrospective of Ken Shiley.
Totally. Oh yeah, Open Carry. No, was it Open Carry 2013?
Yeah. Open Carry. That's it. Where is it?
Next to Trauma Tube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was such a simple select. I think my favorite was the real estate.
Right.
But now it's. I think it's might not be working anymore with YouTube. That we need to click because it used to be autoplay. Anyway,
Totally.
so you cannot. Yeah, well, basically the videos would autoplay, and they were all kind of like tours or tours of the city, tour of a real estate compound, things like that. And then you had this overlaid hand with the gun from first-person shooters games, and it created this very weird feeling, you know, this very weird combination of these two working together. But yeah, unfortunately, it's like many of these projects that rely on YouTube or services that keep on changing. It's quickly or easy to get data. Yeah, so, but this was kind of fun to look into, to browse the Instagram.
Are all these boards publicly accessible, or are
yeah, this is publicly accessible.
Very cool.
And you can find it on the Photo Museum situation site. It's situation number 206.
Totally cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to delve into all of this different. So yeah, this idea of the camera and the gun, and they kind of come together in games a lot. I think. So I think that selfie doom in that sense, that's why it's like fun, but also there's something to it, right? That makes it
Totally
creepy. And I think, you know, as we were saying, like from games or how games are turned into cameras, into imaging system, we could talk about Game Boy camera or straight photo modes. I think maybe
sure.
Which one maybe Game Boy camera is interesting, or like.
So the Game Boy camera is kind of like an add-on for the Game Boy, which came out in 1989. The Game Boy, right? The camera was introduced in 1998 by Nintendo, and it was basically a device that, like a cartridge that you could plug in on your Game Boy itself and take very kind of like low-res photographs, 112 pixel per 112, and it was monochrome.
Nice that wrong terms came up in the Google image search.
It's so, I mean, it's so brilliant.
Perfect. So it's a really nice with the exhibition.
And you can only store like 30 pictures photographs in this machine. And it wasn't very successful actually, because Nintendo stopped making this device in 2002. However, like always happens, you know, like William Gibson says, the street find its own use for things. It's not huge, but there's a very lively and active and creative community of fans of this device on the internet. There's an entire like Reddit, you know, subreddit devoted entirely to the Game Boy camera, and people started making improvements. So they started modding it. One of the first things they did was basically make a mod to use an external SD card reader to store more pictures. And then they upped the ante and created a special lens, right, for the camera. So they modded and the machine itself to get. And so other people started making, for example, color images, ways of taking, you know, color images, which is impossible on this device. And they have a bunch of tricks to do that. And I'm going to mention a couple in a second. So one guy, for example, that is extremely popular is Matt Gray, and he's a British guy. And what he does is basically using filters, very simple filters that he puts in front of the camera, right? And then he gets a kind kind of like a very basic, photo image that edits and prints it out. There was also a photo printer that you can connect to the machine and print out very small, like instant photographs. So it's funny. It's kind of funny because in 1998, the Game Boy camera was the world's smallest digital camera, and which is kind of fascinating. But it's really the modders. It's really part of the community that counterplayed with this thing to make it absolutely outstanding, right? So yeah, here it is taking a photo. Yeah, so this is on the left, you see the image that you would get normally on a Game Boy camera, and that's the kind of like the version that it gets. How does he do that? Basically, it uses green and red, different filters basically, and take the same photographs and superimpose them in order to achieve that goal. So they're very creative. They're always trying to fight the limitations of the machine, of the device, in order to improve it, make it better, make it more sophisticated, but also still respecting, kind of like without violating too many rules, also still respecting, the limitations, the constraints that I face. Yeah, I mean, this is really clever. Another guy who does this is Andreas Gach, also known as Ergach. And another thing that he does, Ergach, is basically also to print out the images that he produces. It 3D prints them, and they look like like religious wafers. Like they're really fascinating. He's on Instagram. He's on just Google him. Yeah, Ergach. And he also used Arduino to make a special printer using Wi-Fi and adding that level of functionality that was completely absent from the original hardware. I mean, again, we're talking about late 90s, so you can imagine how kind of like rudimentary try Andreas Gack, Andreas Gack.
Because I downloaded the whole account of Kelly Jenner recently, so Instagram got some issues, and yeah.
Oh, it's the first one actually, Ergach, that's him. But
yeah, but I can't open.
Oh, I see.
It's still Instagram, right?
Well, try this guy instead. I'm talking about another crazy. Tim Binion is another photographer that uses the Game Boy camera to take pictures of sports events like race driving competition, like the Formula One. In 2018, he basically took photographs for the Shanghai Formula One competition, and they look actually really good.
I think it's also in there, so maybe there's.
Try this one, yeah, the Imgur. Yeah, I mean, look at this. This is incredible. I mean, he also developed a special lens to take photographs from a distance. I mean, he's basically sitting hundreds of yards away from the circuit, but still these kind of images are kind of fascinating.
Speaking of games, so Instagram is asking me to do like a video selfie.
You're kidding.
No,
bastards.
They need to make sure it's me in this account. So
biometric go.
Slowly turn your head to the left. Perfect. Slowly tilt your head upwards. Perfect. Slowly again.
Giorgio Agamben would not approve what you're doing right now.
It's the only, you see, like the only way that I can in order to show the links. So the video will never be visible on Instagram, it will be deleted. Okay, it should work. Oh my God, it's so scary. Let's see.
This is platform capitalism, and we're not going to take it anymore.
Now it works. Okay.
Oh wow, there he is. Yeah, but these photos are from 2018. So yeah, there was it. The 2-beat Formula One. I saw it. The first one, yeah. There was like on top, there was this icon.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yes, I missed it. on a 0.016.
Yeah, make up. Yeah, there he is.
Monochrome madness.
And there's also, let's see, the Articam, which was made by.
Wait, this is Hergak. Now I should be able to show.
Oh, you got it? Oh, very cool. Oh, check out these photographs. These are freaking awesome. Freaking awesome. So he colorizes them, obviously, with different techniques. And it's, yeah, he's one of the most, like, I would say, prominent. Yeah, look at this mod. It's insane. It's insane.
These guys are crazy. Wow. I love them.
It's so cool.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about Die Hard, Game Boy fans here.
So,
oh yeah, check this out. Check this one out. Unbelievable.
And then it's funny how like it doesn't really contribute much to the quality of the image.
It's the journey, not the destination.
Totally. And yeah, so but
you also have people like taking photographs of solar eclipses, and you have people taking photographs of the moon in like 2-bit. It just became like a challenge. Like, how much can I bring this game to, like, its extreme level?
But do you think there's there's also a level of nostalgia in this, or the resolution, the image itself is actually not so interesting in the end?
Well, I don't think it's just about pixel art. I think it's really about trying. It's a hacker mentality, trying to get, it's like the same tendency of phenomenon of the running Doom of every possible device, including Texas Instrument calculators or washing machines, etc. This is like, how far can I push this thing? So yeah, the Articam, it's a selfie machine that uses a Game Boy camera, an Arduino board, and a like 1934 smartphone. I mean, yeah, it's just brilliant. It's just so demanded that you have to love this.
Is it a smartphone camera? Wow.
But my favorite, where is it? There's a guy. There's a guy who used the Game Boy camera to, Bernard Capelon. He used the Game Boy camera, here we go, to make a webcam to use during the Zoom pandemic, where everybody was trying to get, really good cameras, like, the Logitech Brio or the StreamCam, whatever, super high resolution. And this guy was able to hack a Game Boy camera to use as a webcam. I mean, this is totally brilliant. I mean, to me, it's just genius.
What is that? It's like a Game Boy camera in a Game Boy, then in an adapter into, I don't even know what that is.
And it's like 1 frame per hour. It's like, it's brilliant. This is genius.
Oh, fantastic. All right, and then I think so in the show we have the Game Boy camera of Christopher Graves.
Right. Oh, Christopher Graves is another like huge guy. You should talk about him, because I think that is one of the most respected modders on the scene. And he works for Motorola. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that you definitely know much more about it, but I was super struck by even having like a 37mm lens on top of the original lens, and there's a grip. It's not super visible here, but there is this wooden grip here on the camera with a button,
a shutter,
of the shutter button that works with the Game Boy console. So it's like really this Frankenstein mix, right, between the Game Boy, the game console, and the camera apparatus. I think it becomes really evident also visually. You have these things that you're not really sure what is anymore. And also his images are, I think we have this one printed in the exhibition. but he also has quite a poetic touch, you know, for street photography and all these scenes, even through this extremely pixelated. Yeah, this is an installation shot. Because and we also had fun like choosing this image with CCTV cameras on it, right?
Right.
And then on the other side of the spectrum, I think you have this thing called photo modes, right? Because I think this is kind of like still a similar idea, but it's really kind of the opposite side in the sense that photo modes are something that were introduced by the game industry, by AAA games. Where is it? And instead of like this, like lo-fi DIY hackers, we're talking about the big corporation game developers kind of introducing state-of-the-art simulations of the analog camera, all the parameters. So it's also funny, you know, like it's kind of simulating as close as possible the analog camera to take pictures of CGI.
Remediation, my friend.
And so it's a phenomenon that, I mean, you can also, of course, talk a little bit about the different kind of photo modes, especially because you edited this series of tutorials for the show from different games, from different photo modes. So there's also different kind of parameters and different kind of camera simulation in photo modes. But maybe briefly, just to talk about like the origins, maybe the kind of ancestor, or the first photo modes was actually called photo drive, and photo drive and oh sorry, I'm opening the links in the wrong tabs, you can't see anything. But I found this magazine from 2005, which was called Popular Photography Magazine, the hottest digital supercamera, which also had an article about Gran Turismo 4, a racing game from 2005. Right. And how they introduced this photography simulation, or like this thing called photo drive and photo mode, photo drive and photo travel, it was called. So it was two different photo modes that you could use in the game. It's very cool. There's not many examples online. I couldn't find, I think there was a video at some point where basically you had this, the resulting photo here, and then here kind of like showing where the car was. In Photo Drive, you could actually take pictures of your car in the race. But Photo Travel, I think, was even more interesting because you, I have the link here. It was the ultimate car photographer wet dream. So you could place your car in selected places. So this is from Photo Travel, then exists also in the later iteration, Gran Turismo 5, Gran Turismo 6. You could place it in front of the, you know, the church in Syracuse, or in Sicily, or in different parts of the world, in Berlin, and then just like change all of the parameters of the cameras, including also parameters of the car, you know, like the angle of the tires, but then you had all of these other like autofocus lock and zoom and so on. I found a list of the parameters of the Google Drive, Google Drive, Photo Drive, right? So you had exposure, white balance, aperture,
Right.
speed, adjust zoom, rotate viewfinder, panning, saturation, vertical, horizontal, focus, camera up, down, select camera, and that's it. Photo shoot. So this is funny because I think the article says how Gran Turismo is created by true car lover, how passionate the developers are. And of course, they're also so much into taking pictures of fast cars. So they were also trying to have that kind of simulation, that experience of car photography. And I mean, Matteo, you have basically dedicated a whole volume, right, on Forza Horizon and a racing game. And you also looked a lot at people taking pictures of cars. I think that's also an interesting kind of subgenre of in-game photography.
Right. I mean, to me, racing games are basically like the ultimate product placement kind of in form of entertainment, in a sense. They're very like aspirational. They're like a form of competitive consumption, where you vicariously buy the car of your dreams through these games, and it's all about getting the better. But it's also about living the dream of the car advertising, right? The promise of the empty road, the beautiful vistas, versus the reality of driving in real life, which means traffic, people keying your car, and people parking like assholes. And the real drive is just I spent a lot of time in Italy, and Italians are probably the worst drivers in Europe. I mean, they're so demented. They drive like in a video game. That's to me very fascinating. Which is totally reckless and totally stupid. In fact, the best way to die in Italy is to cross the street on the crossroads, where normally people would like stop and let you pass, but not in Italy. So don't ever use the cross. Just like make eye contact with the driver. And so to me, like this conflation between driving the video game set in Italy and driving in Italy in real life is just outstanding. And people take pictures of their car. Italy also venerates cars, the Ferraris, etc. And so these games are also a way for the 99% to own virtually, like iconographically, visually, the cars they could never afford. And so there's a very interesting like subculture of people just customizing their virtual cars, and taking the best photographs. And there's a meta game because they compete with each other about who takes the best game of the best super sports car. And all this, for example, Forza Horizon 4 has the same avatar for each car, which is this guy, this white dude, this 20-something super rich who's driving every possible car. So you get this like weird, it's so uncanny. Yeah, totally.
And I think this was the thread that you analyze. Right, like you also spent a lot of time looking, which I thought it was also a great title. No, the photo thread. You don't take a photograph, you make it. Unquote. But it's interesting that photo modes have this genealogy, like they have this heritage of the racing car photography, right, and all of the aspirations that you talk about, and somehow how they sublimate in the. But I think photo modes, then they come back, or they kind of like see. So I guess photo drive and what was it? And the
I am a middle-aged moment.
I'm like, imagine when I age even more, I'm gonna be really, really photo travel and photo drive. Was totally different from the contemporary photo modes that we see, in the sense that kind of well, photo travel maybe it's what is closer to now, because it kind of becomes a game in itself, or it's separated from the game. But the first photo modes that somehow started this whole trend was maybe The Last of Us Remastered, I would say. And in fact, the fact that this game was remastered for PlayStation 4, so it existed for PlayStation 3, but then it was remastered and the photo mode was added for the version in PlayStation 4. So that also makes us think of a certain shift that happened there. So 2013, 2014. PlayStation 4 also adds a share button on the controller where you can automatically share a screenshot
and play with the apparatus.
Yeah, so it is kind of this moment where something happens. I think there's a big shift in terms of in-game photography and photography sharing from games to social media, right? So all of this photo modes, of course, and always encourage you to share the experience. It's never save the picture as it would be even in Gran Turismo 4. I think you would have to save it on a USB stick.
It's a throwaway culture, man.
Dolly the camera in or out with L1
It's a bit
and
of a
R1.
tutorial.
And roll the axis of the camera with left and right on the D-pad. The field of view menu allows you to zoom in or out with the left stick. This is great for focusing on the little details on a character or getting a big dynamic wide shot. You can also reset to the default settings on any given menu by pressing R3. In the depth of field menu, you can change what the camera has in focus. You can toggle the depth of field on and off with left and right on the D-pad. You can also set the position of the focus with the left stick and adjust the width of the area in focus with L1 and R1. In the color filter menu, you can select from a variety of filters to set the mood of your shot. Adjust the intensity of your chosen effect with L1 and R1. The frame menu allows you to select from a series of borders to frame your shot just right. In the vignette menu, you can darken the corners of the image by toggling the vignette on and off with left and right on the D-pad. You can also set the size of the vignette with the left stick, as well as setting the intensity of the vignette with L1 and R1. You can add some grit to your shot by turning on film grain. Just adjust the intensity of the effect in the film grain menu with L1 and R1. If a particular area is too under or overexposed, you can lighten or darken it in the brightness menu with L1 and R1. Now that you got everything set, you can hide the UI with the X button to save that perfect shot. Once you've framed up your shot, just press the share button to save the image and upload for your friends to check out. You exit share mode the same way you got in by clicking the L3 button.
So I think there's a couple of things that are really interesting, and I saw in a number of official tutorial by PlayStation from different game titles. So it's always this idea of sharing, right? It's always this thing of creating a picture that they want really to circulate outside of the games and social media and so on. But the other thing, so in that sense, it's not simple remediation. It feels to me that there's really this kind of hiding what's happening behind the hoods. So that there is the property of network images, of circulations and social medias and algorithms and so on. But on the appearance, you have this very nostalgic and innocent film camera look, and always this idea of making it, kind of giving it this aesthetics, that it's always about emotion and beauty, right? Always looking at this idea when in the end it feels like very much it's actually really limiting and narrowing the possibilities or the way in which we see. So going back to trophy camera and all of that, we have been trained by so many years of cinema and advertisement and all of that, and then of course this photo mode is going in that direction. It creates more and more kind of standardized images in that sense. So it's quite interesting. I think that the paradox is that in-game photography has become so much less creative through whereas before, you had a lot of kind of also different communities coming up with different tools to adjust. There was the Sweet FX tool, or even I think also there was a lot of people saying no Photoshop, a lot of Flickr group.
Purist, yes.
Purist.
Yeah,
now it's very much about creating this very specific kind of image.
I mean, in a sense, like many other subcultures, being kind of co-opted by the industry. Photo mode is one example, but another example would be ANSO by NVIDIA. The idea of making game photography, an entire genre with a tool that is always available to you and uses the best GPUs. And it's interesting when they did launch this technology software, they basically kind of like recruited a bunch of really good and talented game photographers like Leonardo Sang from Brazil, and many more to kind of like play around, tinker with this tool. And but you're right. I mean, it's basically the Instagramification of game photography in a sense.
Yeah, it's actually funny that conference. I also remember seeing it online, and there was the CEO on NVIDIA with a big banner on the screen that says "The Art of In-Game Photography."
Right.
And that comes back also, you know, to 2012. The Rainer Siegel's blog post is "The Art of In-Game Photography." So there's
Totally.
like this idea of art that now belongs to this canon of art. So we had game screenshots before, right? But suddenly now there's a shift, and it's like the art.
Right. And we own it, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's trademarked.
And they also canonized it because, as you said, they also kind of featured what was like 5 or 6 artists kind of like already established, you know, like
Duncan Harris too. I can't remember, but probably, I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
it's also to me interesting the fact that the photo mode and like tools like this now are basically like embedded, and you know, most video games, at least the AAA productions, are everywhere. Whereas machinima, which is, you know, the idea of making a film using a video game, is kind of like gone. You know, it's still huge in games like, you know, Grand Theft Auto 5, but that's like a game that came out almost 10 years ago, and since then I haven't seen a remarkable machinima tool. But, you know, when it comes to photography and games, that's like everywhere. In every single game has a photo mode. Even games that are like, you know, strategy games, like what? But it's, you know, like Frostpunk, right? And it's fascinating to me. There's this.
You remember also, like I don't remember if you have it in the example, but like Death Stranding. Death Stranding became incredibly popular during the lockdown because it's the game of the necessary.
It's an Amazon delivery simulation. Delivery guy simulation. It's a gig economy.
Pretty much in this post-apocalyptic world, so it was like COVID friendly and all of that.
Right.
But the interesting thing is that it came out without a full mode, and then it
was demanded.
Players demanded a photo mode, and so then they released it with a photo mode. So it's also, as you said, like something that you almost not have it in a game now. Actually, interestingly enough, this is super recent. I think it's last month or so, but Unity has come out also with with this like photo mode demo package, so you can actually just add the photo mode to your game. So even indie developer or people who are not, you know, part of
cutting edge.
Yeah, now it's completely standardized and required.
All the indie movies now, indie games are gonna have a photo mode as well. Yeah,
but it's gonna be the pixelated
camera.
It's gonna be the Game Boy camera emulation. Oh look, like I'm not even listening to the audio, but it's perfect already with the hearts.
Right.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you checked a few photo modes for the show. What did you find out?
That in some cases, taking pictures in a game is much more fun than playing the game itself. It's a form of metagaming. A lot of people just play games to find cool spots to photograph, and therefore own vicariously and through the image itself. It's a form of tourism. It's a form of you know, collecting the world. Once again, Susan Sontag would say. A lot of AAA companies like, you know, Ubisoft or Electronic Arts would sort of encourage competitions. Like, again, photography competition takes the best photograph of this character, which once again is having fans working as you know, unpaid marketers for their own games. You know, and so a lot of in-game photography is just kind of like a decoy for user-generated marketing. That's what I think. It's also a profession too, like as you, yeah. I mean, there are people that are paid to take good screenshots, and totally.
I think that
I mentioned Duncan Harris just a second ago is one of the leading game photographer in the world. A lot of games that you see on game boxes and stuff are shot by this guy who has like ultra high tech computers and custom-made cameras to go into the game and photograph and to make it more real than real, actually more virtual than virtual. Yeah, Duncan Harris, Dead End Thrills.
Yeah, I was trying to look for a job ad that I saw for Activision where they were talking about where they're asking people to have knowledge in games and a portfolio of photography and understanding of photography, because I wanted to show it to my students when they complain if I am giving you actually skills for. Yeah, so this is Duncan Harris, Dead End Thrills. So he's maybe one of the most renowned capture artists in games. They are professionally called. But also, he's one of the veteran capture artists. But also around him, there was a very interesting community of people that came about in already 2010, and so I think that his forum is now gone, but there used to be also a forum in his website where everybody would share a lot of pictures, advices, tips, and so on.
Right.
Critique each other's picture was really interesting. I think he took it down maybe 1 or 2 years ago, I don't remember. But the Flickr group survives, and it's quite interesting because it's still maintained by some people. So yeah, group since January 2nd, 2010. And then it was also one of these groups that also had
no photoshopping, Lightroom edits, right. No cutscene shots, right. All the rules are spelled out for the fans.
Yeah, so yeah, this is photo modes. Did you also was there one game in particular that you thought was, I don't know, somehow doing something crazy or something that
not crazy. To me, what is kind of interesting is that all the systems are kind of like siluses, right? In the sense that they try to create their own social networks. For example, in a game like even like I don't know, like Grand Theft Auto 5, right? It would be normal to kind of like have an option to immediately like share everything with all their favorite social network, but they create their Rockstar as their own virtual kind of like, the social club, their own like kind of like space, which is doesn't really talk to the world outside of gaming, right? So there's still this divide. Of course, there's a bunch of people uploading photographs to Instagram and Snapchat and other like tools, but it still like requires an extra step, right? So there's still kind of like the idea that game photography is just for gamers, and there's something else for the normies, right? But so to me, that these ideas kind of like obsolete. But it still has to do with this idea, now Apple fighting with Epic. This is the store. My store is my space. I decide what. It's like my own gallery, and this is that's another thing, which is kind of like, to me, is very 90s. It's a very 90s logic. I don't think it can last longer.
Yeah, and also it has proven very blind, very short-sighted in terms of
totally.
Preservation or access and all of that things. But anyway, that's probably another topic. Okay, let's have a little bit of fun also with some other things that I found out. So there's a lot of not only remediation, a lot of nostalgia, a lot of so Tamagotchis are back with a Game Boy camera attached to it.
Pretty much.
But actually a pretty good camera looks like. It's actually funny that the Tamagotchi itself looks still quite pixelated and nostalgic, and the camera seems to be upgraded. So I'm not entirely sure how it works, but you can have your Tamagotchi and care for your virtual pet, and then I guess you can also take pictures of you that are overlaid on it. I'm not sure. There's like a this thing which starts kind of blurring again the.
Oh, you're really pushing to the next level, my friend. With the Instax.
This this is kind of a photo.
This is genius. Yeah.
It's not even like a photo. It's like a printer attached to your. Oh, here it's like a. It's explained better than I could say. Like Nintendo Switch, phone, this Instax printer, and then this Polaroid-looking Instax photo.
Hey, did you know about this? Talking about weird cameras, do you know about this? Have you ever seen it?
No, but I'm scared.
Google it. We might get some porn. I hope not, but it's so go to images. So there was basically a camera embedded into the Barbie doll, so you could press her back, her back, and she would take a photograph. And it's just kind of like, it's so creepy and weird that it's just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. It's like a spy camera for kids. Yeah, I mean, I can only think about the horror of. Well, I'm just gonna.
Back.
Yeah. It's just,
okay, I see. Yeah.
Oh my God, the horror. This Barbie is a video camera.
But,
oh my God. Can you imagine releasing something like this today? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Look, it's just terrifying.
It had a display on the back.
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering where the image is.
But talking about camera play, can you get me one of this? I know you guys probably have like console. Like make your own camera. Have you ever seen it?
It's in the chat.
Google it. It's a classic. Images. Okay, so you have the nano blocks, and you can make your own like this. You can have a lion on your camera. And there are people competing to do the craziest like designs. It's a normal camera with basically Lego-like embedded blocks, but yeah, it's kind of demented. Talking about camera play, I thought it was relevant.
So right. Oh, there's also Lego camera building instructions. No, I was thinking before we got carried away.
If we're degenerating, so we should probably quit now.
What was that game that also had this? It was not a photo mode, but now I forgot. You find this simulated cartoon camera. Fire what?
Firewatch?
Firewatch, thank you.
By Camposanto? Oh, okay. I was thinking some like crazy Japanese, like, okay.
No. So actually, you find this cartoon camera, and then you can take it out throughout the game and take pictures, and you have only 24 pictures. I think, no, you find it with already a couple of pictures used. But then what was cool that at the end, you could also order the pictures, and then you would get them in real life. It didn't work, like, I think it was maybe only in the US. I don't know. I only because when I played it,
you press the button, we do the rest.
Yeah.
Remember.
So there was also this interesting, I think, idea of attaching kind of like this real world scenario from the game and learn the things. And maybe the last thing that we can talk about, unless of course we want to go on, but I wanted to talk about promptography. So promptography is a term that people use to talk about. Prompto is a character in Final Fantasy.
Not to be confused with proctology, people.
Which is a non-playable character, or at least you're in a team, and he's taking pictures throughout the game by itself. So it's kind of like a photographer AI. There was this introduction by the developer that I have somewhere lost, but it's quite interesting because so the pictures are now even outsourced out of the players,
right?
And there's an AI who's basically been trained on photography, existing photographs, and it's quite complicated. There's a very interesting way that they talk about how they made it. So also adding errors in it to make it more realistic, because the whole idea of this game is like 4 buddies having a road trip and then slashing some monsters and stuff. But basically at the end, yeah, here you see at the end of each game day, he will show you the pictures that he took. And you already saw now that's like there's the car, there's the girl, there's
Yeah.
guy. So only that they're pre-made. And in the talk it was funny because it said like, so you can focus on play, and because the developer was saying that to take a good screenshot take effort. So now you can focus. So it was like this labor of taking a screenshot, taking pictures inside the game is now outsourced to an AI. I really enjoyed like this idea of how they framed it. It was kind of revealing because it is very much attached to this labor of producing images that circulates, that we talk in gameplay.
Forever machines who like them.
The Jody Dean ideas that we talked in gameplay already. So I think in the end, there's this beautiful final quote of the developer at the conference that says, the only question is to share or not to share.
Genius.
It's fantastic, really fantastic.
And on that note,
I took it at a point. I need to check because I think that this was 2017, and oh yeah, so this is it. Oh, this is exactly the talk.
Yeah, the GDC talk.
Yeah, he's also like a very nice guy, very kind of excited about the project, very passionate.
Great. And maybe for those who haven't played it yet, let me summarize this system a bit. So in Final Fantasy 15, an open world game, so your friend Prompto took a picture for you during your adventure, and the picture he takes is not an old classic screenshot, but a stylish smart photos as seen by him inside the game. And with our built-in SNS interface, since the release of the game last year, his photos are overwhelming internet, Facebooks and Twitters, having us promoting our game. So today we will talk about these features. And possible. So if mean you ran too fast and Prompto could not run in front of you, and that's the reason. So maybe you should run slower.
Yeah, I usually am in a rush to jump.
Okay, I'm not gonna go and look for when he said to share or not to share, but it's there somewhere. Yeah, so I think this is yeah, as I said, I think at one point then they stopped or they're not doing it again in the next release. I don't remember, but it was for a moment also this idea of a total like post-flusser even, you're not even being the functionary of the camera anymore. You're not just like sharing or not sharing them. This whole process. So the image is complete CGI. On top of it, the screenshot, the image of the image is handled by an AI who's simulating a photographer of that. It has become a completely self-sustained and self-sustainable.
And totally post-human too. Like humans are totally redundant at this point. I think it's the photography genre of the Anthropocene. I mean, it's definitely like they don't need us anymore. It's just, you know, we're done.
And on this note, I think it's a nice depressing place to wrap up. No, but it's also exciting. I think
it's very exciting. What are you talking about? It's great. I can't wait for humanity to be gone.
Fully automated luxury photography, right? So we're gonna actually have one last installment next week where we will talk about game travel. The last chapter left for us to stream at this ridiculous hour. So thanks again, and good night, good day, good whatever.
Ciao.